So today we're going to be looking at the Ash rig here. Again, you can get this from the Agora community. Do I still have the link? No, that's not the link. Find the link for everyone because I think there's a few other people who jumped in. So there's a whole bunch of new Pokemon rigs available right there. Check them out. Today we're going to be checking out the Ash rig. And there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to do this. One is I know a lot of people are going to be using this rig for the upcoming Agora challenge, which is really nice. I'm excited to see what people will do. I love Pokemon. You can't really see it, but I've got a few Pikachus back there and Nurse Joy. Cameron has a whole bunch of Pokemon stuff in his office. And I figured, hey, it would be fun to go over this and see what people will be using. Now, this rig is really cool. There's a couple of things to keep in mind though. When you first open it, you will have to install a plugin. The plugin is the M-Gear plugin. If you just do a Google search for M-Gear, I'm going to type it out here. M-Gear, Maya plugin. You'll find it. It's free. It's basically just download it, drag and drop into Maya. It's installed. Without that, the hair on the rig will not work. They'll all look like his hair's imploded into his head. So make sure you do that. Actually, with all of the rigs on the Agora site there, this one needs the M-Gear plugin. The others need another plugin which comes with the rigs that you also need to install. So just make sure to read the README when you download them. Otherwise, it's not going to open up. I tried one of them and the elbow just twisted the wrong way until I installed the plugin. So when you open this, there are a few things that I noticed right off the bat. One, I will just say it's a super appealing rig. I love the facial proportions of this character. I don't know, it's like a good, cool mix between the cartooniness of the show, but also a little bit more like a real character. I find it's a good balance that they created here. One thing you'll notice though is that his eyes are a little gray right here by default. The quick solution to this is essentially there's two pieces of geometry here. You have the eyeball and then the eye lens, the shiny part that goes over the eye. And the lens right now is just too opaque. We want to turn up the transparency. So just select the eye here, right click on it, and then go to material attributes. This is going to be the shortcut to go straight to the material here. And right there, you want to find the cornea and bring up the transparency. Now we can actually see his eyes, and he looks a little bit more appealing than that kind of. It kind of looked like he just had like cataracts in his eyes. The other thing I personally like to do with eye shines, you'll notice how kind of wide they are right there. I just turn down the eccentricity a little bit. I find it just gives a little bit more of a shine feeling versus a big just washed out feel to it. Now, another thing to watch out for is you'll notice that one shoe is shiny, one shoe is not. I'm actually compiling a list of all of these things here for the rigger. I'm going to message them afterwards just to see if these are common issues or maybe this is just me. It could just be my system. So you'll notice that one shoe is shiny, one is not. Well, that kind of seems a little odd to me, to have two different materials. Essentially what's happened is if you look at the materials of the shoe, one shoe is a Lambert material, the other one is a Blinn. So one is a flat, no shine, the other one is a shiny material. So essentially, if you want to fix this yourself, just pick whichever one you want. So maybe you want the shoe to be a little shiny. So take the Lambert material, switch this to a Blinn right there. Boop. There you go. Now they're both shiny. Done. Let's see. A few other issues that you guys might run into, and this is going to be the biggest one here. And this is something I'm going to be messaging the rigger about, or I should say maybe Agora about. I'm not sure who the best person to contact would be for this. Is when you rotate the head, and I've tried this in multiple versions of Maya just to make sure. When you rotate the head too far, the eyes start to distort right there. So the skin around the eyes is distorting and something is not quite working. So for anyone who's interested in using this rig, if you're going to use it right away, try to do a shot that doesn't have a character doing a big head turn. And this doesn't apply just to the head control, but essentially anything that rotates the character. So if I rotate the root here over, his eyes are all going to be messed up. So in the case of the test that I want to do today, it's not going to be a problem. And as long as your character doesn't do a big head turn, it's not going to be an issue. You can see if I do like a 45 here, it's not bad. It's fine. It's starting to get a little deformation there, but if you're doing a shot that's a little far away, no one's going to notice that. So just be aware of that. Let's see. A few other things that I noticed on this rig. Some issues is if you rotate the foot up here, so I'm going to use a little bit of the foot roll. So roll this up. And then if you use any of the toe or ball attributes, so to rotate the ball of the foot or rotate the toes, you'll see that the heel actually cuts through the shoe right there. So there's a little bit of a weighting issue. The weights of the shoe or the foot is not quite set right there. Again, is that a huge issue? Not really. As long as you're not having the character or the camera right at the back of the foot, you can usually hide that pretty well. Now there's a few other things that I found out here on the rig. Nothing huge, but hopefully this is all going to be able to be fixed super quick. Honestly, the biggest one is just the eyes, because you can't really rotate the character. Aside from that, so far, from the quick testing I've done, which was basically just a few hours before the stream, I opened it up and took a quick look. It seems to be a solid rig. Now, one thing I did want to mention, just because it's a really cool feature that I haven't really seen any free rigs do before, is that this rig has IK fingers. So, right here, I can set this, and look at that, IK fingers. That is huge to me. It's like, wow, I'm shocked. It's really cool. Now, the nice thing with IK fingers is if you select the IK fingers, I can switch what their space is. So let's have them just follow the world here. And now as I move the IK hand, let's actually set this to IK here. Those fingers stay in place. Oh, wow, that's so nice. So that's cool. I really love that. Now, something to get, or just to be aware of, is you'll notice that there's keys on here. I have not set any animation. I've literally just opened this rig up and set a few of the attributes on it. I have not set any keys. All of the IK finger controls have keys on them already. They're all set to frame -40, so you should never run into any issues with them. But just be aware of that. The IK spine also has keys on them by default. So just be cautious. It shouldn't cause any problems, but it's good to know in advance. So I don't think we'll be using IK fingers today, but it's good to have. Let's see. I tried to constrain a prop to a hand, but when I did, there was still a gap. I checked the settings, still not working. I have a bunch of constraint videos. If you go to the videos page and then go to the Maya section, I believe, there should be a whole bunch of constraint videos in there that should help. Essentially, when you're trying to create a constraint, the best way to do it, let's see. So let's say you've got a hand here. I don't know why I started trying to draw it anatomically when I started with a cube. But let's say you've got a hand and then you've got a prop. What kind of prop? We'll just put a cube, since we mentioned a cube here. Okay, so there's your prop. I know, thank you for the compliment. This hand is the best one I've ever drawn. One day I'm going to find the practice sheets that I did on hand studies. The way I would set this up is I would create a locator. And this is the bare bones simplest way to do it. I would have, so I'm assuming that you want so you're trying to constrain a prop to the hand. So the hand is controlling the prop. In that case, the locator will be parented to the hand, and then the prop will be constrained to the locator, and you're going to use the locator to animate in between them. This way, when you create the constraint, and Tommaso, thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate that. 7 months. Thank you so much, Tommaso. I really appreciate that. Essentially what this setup is going to do is allow you to animate the locator, which will move the box, the prop, and readjust it. So if you set up the constraint and it's not quite in the right spot, or you need to adjust it, so essentially you want to be able to have the character move the prop in their hand, this was going to allow you to do that. If it's a larger prop, so anything like a pen that has a point to it, a larger prop that has more weight to it, I would do the reverse, where I would constrain the IK hand to the prop. So I would parent the locator to the prop here, and then constrain, so you're just reversing it, constrain the hand to the locator. There you go. So that's the basic way of doing it. Getting tongue-tied there. As you want to get more complex, essentially what you're just going to do is add more locators, so that you can create more offsets and different ways of connecting them together and create different pivot points, all of that good stuff. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. Will break connection break the rig? No. So if you're talking about the right click break connections right here, that's not going to break the rig. Or like, let's say on the IK fingers that were already keyed, that won't break the rig, but it's not going to make a difference either. In this case, like I could break the connections right here, break connections right there. It'll get rid of the keys and everything should still work. Yep. I'm not sure why those keys are there. I'm assuming they just got randomly keyed. So for example, the IK chest, when you first open this up and turn on the IK chest, the chest is actually at an angle, kind of rotated oddly. I reset this on mine just before the stream. I was doing some testing. Oh, actually, no, there you go. I forgot I reopened it. So you can see it's actually at an angle here. So just boop, straighten out. There we go. Now, let's just see about breaking the connection, just for the sake of it. And let's see if we can, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, you might actually have to break the connection in order to set the keys. It depends on how it's set up, but that might be something to watch out for. Hey Mitch, you're starting classes in September? That's awesome. Congrats. That's huge. Nice. ANO3. Awesome. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Okay. So, in terms of the rig, let's see, any other main things that stood out as I was doing testing. I could do a full breakdown of the rig if anyone's interested. I did that on the Reimu rig. Essentially, whenever you open a rig, like I was saying earlier, you don't want to just open it up and start animating. Look through every control, at least every main control, to understand what options you have available to you. and kind of familiarize yourself with the terminology of the rig. Every rig, especially if you go from different riggers, they're going to have different names. So for example, a very common one is the Benbow controls. I call them Benbows. They're the controls that allow you to shape the arms and legs on certain rigs. Some rigs call them Benbows, some call them bendies, some call them sculptors. In this one, it's Viz Sub. So sub controls. If I turn this on, there they are. And you can see now I can sculpt that arm shape. So going through the rig it's not like you're going through and trying to figure out every single little thing on here, but it's just making sure that you know where the main controls are, what you're looking for, and what might break or cause issues. So one of the things that I noticed when I first opened the rig is that if you rotate the body here, by default, the arms here were set to orient, I believe it wasn't chest. I think it might have been root driver, but essentially it was set to this, where as you move the body, the arms don't move with the body. Now, this is a personal preference, and really it just depends on what you're animating. For me, by default, I like this setting and setup more, because what that allows me to do is move the character more realistically. So if I put my arm out here and I rotate my body, you can see that my arm stays still. I'm not doing this. Now, that depends on the scene that I'm animating. If I'm animating a character spinning, that would be much better to have those arms follow along. So in this case, it's going to help quite a bit. Another setup that I prefer is on the neck. By default, the neck was set to follow, I think it was the head right here. So when you move the body, see how the neck, that was the wrong one. What was it set to? It was set to orient. Was it neck base? Let's see. I think it was that one. Essentially what was happening is as I was rotating the rig, the neck would counter rotate so that it would stay in line with the head. I don't like that personally, because that's not really how our body works. The neck typically follows the chest. So as you rotate your body, your neck follows the line of the chest, and then it'll kind of counter a little bit to follow the head and line of action. But this would be it's not natural, but a lot more natural than having the neck twist. If you tilt your head this way, your neck doesn't really move that much. So little things like this. Getting familiar with the controls. So for example, where are the clavicle controls? Well, in this case, they're right here, our shrug controls. So these are going to be very important controls that we end up using. Finding out what controls you have on the hat. So you have this kind of global control right here. This hat is really cool, by the way. So you've got this global control, and you've got kind of this front squash and stretch. So if you want to animate the rim of the hat, you can do that. You can animate the back of the hat right here. It's really cool. And then even the middle has its own little control there. So you've got a lot of control on this hat here. What other cool features are on this rig? Well, one of them is you can actually turn off a bunch of controls here. So this eye icon will allow you to turn on and off different sets of controls, because as you can see, this is a pretty heavy rig in terms of the controls. A lot of them come from the face. If you're wanting to just do a quick body mechanics pass and not focus on the face yet, you can come in here and turn off the human visibility. That's the lower face. I don't know why it's called human, but that'll be the lower facial controls. Eyebrow, you could turn off the cap controls if you don't want to animate the hat just yet. Let's see. The R ball and L ball is the eyes. There's a whole bunch of jacket controls that are hidden by default. So when you want to animate the jacket, you can turn those off. Or on, I should say. Unfortunately, there's no hair control here, but I think that might be here. No. Yeah. So already this makes it a lot easier to take a look at. And let me actually make sure I turn off that jacket because I did not. There we go. So that makes it quite a bit easier to look at already. And I'm not having to get inundated with all of these extra controls that I may or may not need. So here we have just this neck shaper control. That's very nice to have. One of the things that I always check in any rig that I'm about to use is what foot controls do I have. For anyone who's seen any of my shots where I have to do like foot motion, I spent a lot of time with the feet trying to get these very specific and kind of subtle motions in the foot. So I will just go through here and check out what all of these do. So here we have this lock attribute. This is great because it locks the knee to the PV control here. This is very important if you want a character to kneel down. It's kind of distorting the foot right now, but if I kind of shape this is where the bend bows would come in as well. I could have the character kneel down just by putting this on the ground. There you go. His knee stays on the ground. Very nice. Same thing with the elbows. That lock controls allow you to put the elbow on something and leave it there. You've got spin. Spin is essentially going to be the orientation of the knee. Right now, doesn't really do anything because we've got the PV in place right there. What else do we have? Let's actually hide our display layers right here. Boop. Okay. So we've got, let's get rid of that spin. We've got the roll attribute. This is going to be our best friend when we're doing walks, because this is going to be what allows us to roll that foot upwards, get that pressure as they go up. Now, if we want to adjust when the foot starts to take off, this is going to be the roll ball attribute on this rig. So I can adjust this to keep that foot down on the ground a little longer. Now, one thing you have to be careful of is this rig is modeled correctly in the sense that you'll notice that the toes don't touch the ground. If you actually look at people's shoes, most shoes have a slight curl to them at the end. So your toes, the very tip of your toes, do not touch the ground. If it's perfectly flat, that it's not incorrect, but it tends to be the exception versus the rule. Now, in this case, that's great. It makes it feel more believable. The problem is that as the foot pushes up, you're going to get this floating motion. This is those moments where I would much rather figure this out now than halfway through a walk as I'm trying to get things working. It's like, wait, what happened to the feet? I have to redo everything. Essentially, if I want to get this to work correctly, I might need to adjust the ball lift right here and just bring that down. So as the foot comes up off the ground, we keep that toe pressing down the whole time. Something to keep my mind on as I get to that stage of animation. Now, this ball roll straight set, I'm not quite sure when I'd use this. Essentially, it seems like it's just a way to straighten out the foot. I don't know when I'd use that. Really, it's just the ball lift set that I would want to use in this case. A lot of rigs tend to call this the toe break attribute, when the toe will straighten or break, or bend, I should say. Toe bend is also, I've seen that called a few times. Ball lift, like we said, that's the toes right here. And like I showed before, be very careful because there is a weighting issue in the heel. So you'll notice if you go too far or if the foot is already rotated up. So if I roll this up here and then use it, I don't have to go far before that heel starts to stick out. Luckily, you should never really have to push the toes that far to see that issue. Okay, we have ball twist. That's a useful feature to get that little twist on the Tips of the toes there. Side to side. Very useful, especially when you want to have a character like spin to a stop. That can add a lot of detail. We've got the bank from the center, so just tilting from the center of the foot. Roll from the center. At this point, it's kind of self-explanatory. And Joshua, thank you so much for the sub. Jeez, half a year already. Aw, thank you. Also, hello. Hope you're doing well. Aw, man, thank you so much. So spin front, spin outer. So this is the outer edge here. This is a really nice control to have. Inner spin, all of those, very nice to have. There is one control I will say that is missing on this rig, and it's a control that I wish more rigs would have. I actually see this in very few rigs, which the Reimu rig here has. So let's turn on the textures just so we can see things a little bit more clearly. And while that's loading, let me catch up with the chat here. Okay. Hey Spencer, are you the one that made this rig? Will hopefully be an update in the next week for the other texture maps, roughness, normal, etc. Oh, that's cool. Hello. I really love the rig so far. I'm looking forward to trying an animation with it. It's really cool. Oh, you made the model? Nice. I think I saw, was it on ArtStation? I think I saw your work. It's really cool stuff. You had the, if it's the right ArtStation I'm thinking of, like the Pokemon magazine and then the article in there. That was really cool. So the control that I typically, nice, yeah. If you have a link to your work, definitely post it in the chat there. And everyone should check it out. It's really cool stuff. Lots of cool models in there. I especially like the Ash with the red jacket. That looked really nice. It just looked really spiffy. I'm a fan of, I had Pokemon Red growing up, so I'm used to like Ash having the red jacket. I like that. There you go. Yeah, everyone check that out. So the control that I typically see people don't include, which honestly, it's not the most important, but as an animator, it gives a lot of extra oomph that you can give to the foot. And let me just fix this because that horrible stretched foot is not, there you go. It's right here, I believe. So if I bring this foot up, where was it? Twist? No. Give me 1 second while I try to remember where it is here. It was the heel. Toe swivel? No. Oh yeah, this rotation right here. This. Being able to keep the toes flat on the ground while being able to rotate the ankle like this is huge. Specifically for more cartoony and exaggerated poses. In real life, we can't really do that too much, a little bit. But let's say I had a pose here where the character was really, I turn on anti-aliasing and there you go. We had a pose here where the character's got this extreme angle to the foot. And I want to have this character like push off the ground, lots of strength in this pose. If I don't have that control, I have two options. I either let the ankle look broken right here, which that would definitely be a broken ankle there, or I do this, which straightens the ankle and makes that stronger, but weakens the foot because we don't have any pressure on there anymore. By being able to rotate the ankle here, just like that, you get a nice strong line of action from the foot right down to the toes, and it just makes the poses just that much stronger. And like I said, I don't see many rigs that have that, but I've seen a few, and ever since I saw that rig or that control, it's like, it's so nice. It's just a great thing to have. Now, let's say someone wants to animate with this rig right away and has a pose like that. You can do it. It's just going to be a little bit more kind of 2 steps versus 1. Essentially, I would want to roll this foot up, and then, oh, I've got to angle it. So I would use the, let's say, what is it? The bank, not center bank. There you go. The bank control right there. Get that nice straight. And then I would use the toe twist right here to bring that back. And then I'd have to bring the foot down to press down on the ground there. There you go. Pose done. It's a little bit more work, but you can definitely do it. So, yeah, for anyone who's curious. Let's see. I have to head out, great stuff. I hope I can see the run cycle somewhere. I was going to ask you to take a look at a personal shot, but since I have to go, I'll just drop this thing sketch in case. Okay, awesome. I'll see if I have some time after all of this, and then if not, I'll see if we can do it in the next stream. Okay, so let's see. Now, Spencer, I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I was showing this. I actually have a list of things that I had found on the rig that, like, just little tweaks that might help. But one of them is, and actually maybe I should ask you who the best person to contact for those would be, just kind of little issues. But the one I did find, and this is probably the only major one so far, is that as you rotate the head, the eyes start to distort quite a bit. Right there. And this is not just the head, it's anytime the geometry is moved. So essentially, if I take the root control even and rotate this, the eyes will start to distort right there. You can see them pop back right there. So that's probably the only major thing I've found so far. Everything else just nitpicky little things. Me being picky. Let's see. When you animate on Maya, do you want to always keep the foot controller aligned with the ground? No. No, you do it, you put the foot control where you need it to be for the pose. So for example, when I'm animating, typically I keep the foot control here down on the ground, and I will use the foot rolls and these attributes while the foot is on the ground. That's my preference. And then when the foot's in the air, I will just use this and just rotate it like so, because then it rotates from the ankle as anatomically it should, versus here where it's rolling from the bottom of the foot. So yeah, it really just depends on the scenario and where I'm going to get the best pose. Let's see, where's the global scale for the Reimu rig? I'm not sure. I'll talk to you about that. I think you saw someone mention that on Discord. Okay, nice. So global scale, I don't know if the Reimu rig has a global scale, but it should be either in the options or the root control. She might not have a global scale. If she doesn't have a global scale and you're using the character in a set, I would just scale the set down or up to match her, or use the other rigs to match her. If you still aren't able to get them scaled up, let's see if this will work here. What you can do, I haven't tried this with the Reimu rig, so I'm not sure if this is going to work, is you can select the geometry and go to duplicate special and create an instance of the geometry. So I'm going to group this under a new group, and let's just hit apply. And where is that group? Right there. I'm going to drag that out so we have this new duplicated geometry right there. And essentially what this is an instance. An instance is geometry that is copied over but still retains a connection to the old one. So what this essentially should allow me to do is animate this first one, and you can see that it's adjusting the second one right there. Now, because this is essentially just geometry, I can take this group and let's move our pivot point down to the ground here. Right there. And I can scale this up to whatever size I want and still animate the original. And make sure I select the control I can actually animate right there. So you could do something like that if you really need this rig to be a different size. Essentially, you can think of it kind of like if you've seen Pacific Rim, you're controlling the Jaegers. You're a tiny little character just controlling this giant mech. That's essentially what you'll do. So you'll animate this one character, this tiny character, just somewhere. You can even move them below the floor. So imagine the grid there is the floor. I would just kind of move her down, move this character back up. So like so. And then, yeah, it's like a voodoo doll. Exactly. And then you can do that. And this typically works with most rigs. Now you'll notice that her outline is not quite right there. You might have to dig into the rig to make sure you select that as well, the outline geometry. But you can use this with a lot of different rigs and essentially give yourself a scale attribute if you really, really need to. Like I said, though, if you have a set, I would much rather scale the set or the props or anything else instead of the rig. Rigs are very complex and we don't want to spend too much time tweaking and adjusting them because you never know what might break or might, it's not even like a break, just distort or not work quite right. So yeah, just something to be aware of. But hopefully that helps. Soundtrack of Pacific Rim. Oh, now I want to listen to it. It's so good. A friend of mine actually gave me all of the toys. I call them toys. They really just look like sculpts. They're really detailed. I've actually got them on a shelf in the library there, in my library. And they're just so cool. I love Gypsy Danger. It's such a cool design. And all the kaijus were just so neat. So, with that, let's see. I don't know what else we can go into here in terms of exploring the rig. If anyone's interested, I could go into an in-depth look on the rig, but essentially the big note is just take a look at yourself, and this goes to any rig that you ever look at. Make sure you go through, figure out what most of the attributes are. If you're not sure what it is, spend a little time trying to figure it out. If you can't figure it out, it's probably something you're not going to use while you're animating anyway. At least if you're starting out. So, with that, let's actually go over, let's see, is there anything else I want to do here on this character? Just thinking before we move on to the next part. No, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, actually, I did want to show one last thing. Yes, he has that's exactly the thing I was going to talk about. It's like you read my mind. This rig is really cool. This is the reason why you have to install the M-Gear plugin for the hair. If you select this hair control, you have what's called spring chain intensity. By default, it's set to 0, and if I move the head, nothing happens. You just move the head. If you turn this on here, and then move the head, look at the hair. It's actually animated and is overlapping on its own. That's cool. That's really cool. So once you have your animation in place, you can just have the character moving along. Done. All of the hair overlap is done for you. That is awesome. And maybe it's a little too much. Well, maybe let's turn down that intensity a little bit. So now we just get that little bit of subtle motion in there. This is really cool. I love rigs that have this. I don't use this all the time, and you don't see this usually on free rigs. It's usually studio rigs that'll have this kind of thing, where you have built-in physics. in the character. You'll have this on very big characters. You'll have some sort of muscle or jiggle physics. You'll have that on hair. Sometimes different pieces of clothing will have this. And it's essentially you just animate the base character and all the overlap is done for you. It's not a be-all end-all, because sometimes you do want to animate the hair specifically. Like if the character is going to do this and move their hand or take off the hat, you kind of want to put something specific in there. Well, we still have the controls that we can key. So you have that ability, and that is really, really nice. Yeah, and it can be used for tails, all sorts of things. It's really cool when you have a rig that can do that. This is one of those features that you will often never see on a school rig, because it kind of takes away some of the learning that you have to do. And you very rarely see in free rigs because it's a lot more work. Oh, yes, perfect. I had seen his Instagram, but I wasn't sure if that was the best place to reach out to them. I'll definitely do that, because this rig is really cool. But yeah, that hair is just, oh, when I saw that, it's like, I opened the rig and said, M Gear, what? Why do I need to install M Gear? Well, I'll give it a try. Open it up, and looking through the rig, this is where testing the rig comes in. Chain intensity. Okay, I turn this on and off. Okay. And then I moved the head. It's like, it was so cool. Just look at that. That is so cool. I want to do an animation just for this, just because of the hair simulation. Now, another thing that I did find, this might just be my system. So for anyone who's using Maya 2020, I found that the rig was just a little bit slow when moving the cog control. I'm using Maya 2022 right now, and it's 1-to-1. It's super fast, or maybe not quite 1-to-1 because I'm streaming right now, but it's super fast. So yeah, just be aware. And does the hair take a lot of processing power? Not really. Like if I turn this on and then move the root control here, you can see that it doesn't really slow it down much more than what I had before. Now, this will also just depend on your system. Certain systems will chug a little bit more. But if you've got a decent system, it should run pretty well. So yeah, that's really cool. I love that feature. And like I said, the hat has a whole bunch of controls as well. So you can, the whole just face, hat, and hair, that aspect of this rig is so cool. You can get a lot of fun stuff just with that section of the character. Okay. So I think with that, unless anyone else has questions about the rig, I was amazed by the hair when he showed it to me. Yes, it is. Like, I think this is the first free rig I have ever seen with that amount of control. And same thing with the IK fingers. The fact that this rig has dynamic hair and IK fingers, I've never seen that in a free rig. That is amazing. That level of quality and like detail in there, really cool. It's just, it's like, it's an appealing rig. It's really well built. I haven't done a pose test yet, so I haven't kind of stress tested where how much we can push the posing, but from the few tests I have done with the Benbows, it looks pretty good. Let's see, does the hair have collision detection? I don't believe so. It should just be kind of a overlap network, bone network. So essentially the bones, or the we'll just say the overlapping near the base, isn't moving much, so it's not going to collide too much there. But you can actually see right here, you can see it clipping through the hat right there. So yeah, you're gonna get some clipping. If you're getting too much, you can just tone down the intensity. The hair shouldn't overlap that much. Like, I've got long hair. If I do this, it's not moving. It's not bouncing around and waving all over the place. Even if I do this, like really go far, it's moving a little bit on the back, but not much on the sides here. So yeah, its hair doesn't overlap that much. So you don't have to have a crazy amount. What makes this simulation possible? Is it dynamics? Yeah. So it's the M Gear plugin for Maya that makes this possible.